given that you are the educator professor in Royal Danish Academy, given that you are the professor of NYU for the game, given that you are the professor in the Miami, and like to you, what is the most important factor to nurturing, cultivating the future game designers?
어둠의 게임 기자, 줄여서 어겜기.
인공지능을 기반으로 한 동시통역 서비스를 이용하여 언어의 장벽이 없는 행사를 즐기실 수 있습니다. Ctrl+Alt+Game Rebooting Creativity Event hosted by SKKU in collaboration with Games for Change. So it's really exciting to be here in Seoul. Education and peace and sustainability. And they've been working with young people.
I'm a professor, game designer, developer, artist, and author. I've actually directed 2 academic game studios in the past. So whenever I hand a game to someone, usually the first question is some version of what do I do in the game.
교월을 할 수 있는 방안이 뭐라고 생각하시는지 여쭤보고 싶습니다.
I'm gonna let you answer that as a teacher. But first I want to say full level or college level. But it is a very mature theme. You can just explain what it is.
Well, I think the important thing is to recognize that it has content you certainly wouldn't want a 5th grader playing with. And
Professor Erik from NYU, please welcome him with applause. Professor Jesper, please come up, thank you.
About who we are, where we came from, so you know who are these Americans or Danish people coming here to, you know.
I thought was interesting about video games was that almost everybody kind of agreed they were meaningless, right? They were a waste of time. And so at the same time when people play video games, it's clear that they find it deeply meaningful.
That I think only game design can answer.
Yeah. So it would be like a course about like.
I thought your questions have been amazing. Both for Suzanne and Lindsay, and also for the 3 of us. So I really want to thank you for being so engaged and cheers.
Cheers, 건배. Professor, my apology. It was like beginning of the event. So, yeah, the question was, is it okay to have an interview with him? No. Or actually, after Professor Jesper, I really wanted to have a talk with you also.
Go ahead, Jesper.
I'm really honored to meet Jesper, your 교수님.
Okay, thank you.
감사합니다. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the YouTube people?
Sure, I'm Jesper. I'm a professor at the Royal Danish Academy in Copenhagen, and so basically I'm a video game theorist. That's what my business card says. So I'm just always interested in video games, which I think many people think is a waste of time or meaningless. That it's actually very clear that many people, myself included, play video games, and video games are fun, they're interesting, they're important. And to me that's interesting to try to understand why video games are kind of fun to play, or why they're meaningful, or why we play video games. And I've written sort of 5 books about that in a way. Yeah.
My name is Lindsay Grace. I'm Night Chair in Interactive Media at the University of Miami, and I have been making games for 20 plus years.
Wow. Honored to meet you, Professor.
Hello, I'm Eric Zimmerman. I'm a game designer and I'm a professor at New York University. I'm known for being the co-author with Katie Salen of Rules of Play, which is a game design textbook.
정말 멋있습니다. So great to have you with this interview. And how was today's event? How was today's session for you?
I really enjoyed it because it was all about conversation and dialogue. It didn't feel like an academic conference where people are presenting research. It was really something where we were having a conversation with each other. So it was a lot of fun.
I mean, it's interesting. So, and I think as we were talking about, so video game design and studying video games includes a lot of different disciplines, right? So we had a psychologist, and we had people, so Lindsay and Susanna from the Games for Change, who make games for so games for impact and are interested in those things. And then we had me and Erik Zimmerman and Peter Lee talking more about sort of game design in general and the theory of games. So I think that was a very good range. And I think the questions were very good. So I think it's interesting to see that people had kind of important ideas, I think.
Given that you are the educator professor in Royal Danish Academy, given that you are the professor of NYU for the game, given that you are the professor in the Miami, and to you, what is the most important factor to nurturing, cultivating the future game designers?
I think part of it is an open-mindedness and a respect for the fact that games are the new media. So in the 1920s, it might have been radio. In the 1960s, it might have been television. 1980s, at that point, film had been established. And right now, it's games. Wow. It's games plus social media. But games are an incredibly effective medium, but they're so much more complex than the ones that preceded them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I think one thing is that showing students lots of games and other media. So we also teach, say, film, and then talk about how that is structured. So you can learn from that. I mean, I think it's important to have inspiration personally, but it's also important just to know many different things so you can sort of combine them. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing that's important is playtesting, like learning that if you make something, you should also try it on someone else. And I guess, and as mentioned, the third thing actually might be to become fast, which in a way is strange, but it's just a good idea to quickly be able to make prototypes and try out new ideas, so you don't get stuck all the time. So I think that's actually, those are very important things.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult question. I guess I would say the most important thing for a game designer, there's not one way to make a game, and there's not one piece of information you need, but it's about being flexible. And also that you understand that a game that you make is the result of a design process. The process is about collaboration, prototyping, iteration, analysis, evolving a game over time. That's the process. So in a sense, the game at the end, it's like, anything like, okay, I'm holding this cup, right? This cup is an object.
Yes.
And so if you're going to study cups, you think, oh, let's study the object, the shape, the material, the weight of it, the durability, the manufacturing, the marketing of the object. But really, this object that I'm holding is the result of a process.
Yes.
It's like the residue. It's the end result of a whole series of decisions that were made about the shape, the material, the look, the audience, the manufacturing. And so in games, I think also the emphasis is on the process. We only think of the game at the end, but the game at the end is the result of all these decisions that were made. So that's the question. How do you make decisions? How do you change the game? What's the process of making? So for me, design is about understanding a process. That you when you design a game, you're not just designing a game. Really, you're designing the process that will create the game.
Oh.
And it's a collaborative process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's why game design is hard, because you don't just make the game. You have to figure out, how do we work together in a way, and the game sort of emerges out of all those decisions and process.
어둠의 게임 기자 줄여서 게임기